Hi, this is Dwayne N6DMR. This is a redo of APRS Send video. The last one I did last week was a little bit too blurry, so basically I wanted to make sure I redid this so that it was much easier to follow. I appreciate all the comments I got. They're very helpful, and I definitely want to make this a video of a higher quality. Okay, thanks again, and please hit the subscribe button. It would very much help me if you could. Everyone's trying to build their channel. I'm trying to build mine. I'm rejuvenating this right now, so I'm going to expect a lot more and current videos and a lot of tips and tricks videos as well. So thank you again, 73. So moving on with the tutorial, going to do a little quick overview here of the APRS menu. This section in red right here is a common settings. They're your default settings for timing of auto and also for push to talk and many other things. I'm going to go over them in detail, but this section right here pretty much applies to both analog and digital equally. So a couple things when we get into the details, I'll go over them. The section right to the right here, this is your digital channels. And basically the talk group that is assigned by Brandmeister for APRS is 310099. I filled out all 8 records this way. No big deal. This particular activation delay is part of the digital side. This block below, this section here, it says it's analog, but unfortunately it's not quite true. Many of the edits that are going to be doing in here are going to actually be applying to either digital or analog when it goes out, call sign, etc. This is the analog frequencies that will be sent to the background of any channel that you have. And in this particular section here, this is receive information for setting the radio up for APRS receive. So hopefully that this overview will help you and give you a little bit of understanding of how the menu is laid out. And I'll leave it up for just a few minutes. Sometimes people like to copy, and then we'll move on to the next session here. Okay, moving in now. This is moved out here. This is the APRS menu again, except this is a live menu. I can make changes to it. I have a channel menu over here, because both of these are tuned together. You can't have APRS sending without sending on a channel, but I am going to go over everything here. First section, let's look totally at some of these timing settings. So you have a manual transmit interval. Okay, and what that is when you press to talk on a channel like this one over here, where you have it set up for APRS, when you press to talk, it will send a signal, APRS signal in the background. You'll get the pop-up menu that the packet is going out, and it'll continue doing that every time you press the push to talk until you put a timing set in here. I have it set for 30 seconds. So the way this works is the first push to talk will go out with an APRS. If you push to talk within and 30 seconds has not expired, no APRS will go out. If you push to talk after the interval set here, then you would get another APRS send manually, and you can continue doing that. Typically, I don't basically think that you need to set this any more than 30 or 60 unless you're having a long QSO with someone while you're sending, and you don't want to send every 30 seconds or 60 seconds, and then you would want to put something longer on there, up into the 120 or as close as you can get to 2 minutes. And there they are right there. Okay. And what that means is, how that would work is you'd press the talk, APRS signal would go out. You could continue a QSO talking, push the talk again and again. It will not send another manual transmit until 120 seconds have elapsed. A very, very simple thing. The reason I brought this channel picture up here that I want to save for you guys and show you, I'm actually going to do a quick setting now. You must set a channel to transmit APRS. I'm sorry. It does not have to be a digital or an analog channel. It could be either one. You can choose. This happens to be a digital channel, but I'm going to choose the APRS report type as analog. So the analog, it's going to go out in the background as analog. I'll set the push to talk mode at end of transmission, and I'm going to put the report frequency on number 1. And when you set these three sections of the channel, when you turn to this channel and you have this channel on an active VFO, A or B, and you press the talk, this is going to initiate APRS. Now it's going to do it in 2 ways. First, as we said, on the manual transmission side, it will send, and I've chosen here end of transmission. So when you key up, you're talking. When you unkey, it will then send an APRS manual transmission in the background. And these are going to be going out to the channel 144.390, which is the US APRS analog frequency nationwide. Okay, so this is how the channel and the APRS menu interact. I'm going to leave this. This is probably going to pop up and down as I move between the screens, but as I need to, I'll be bringing it back up. So let's move into the next, which is your APRS auto transmit. Okay, I have the interval set here at 120. This auto transmit, this will send an APRS signal when the GPS is on and you have a GPS lock, meaning that the GPS location data is available to send. Once that happens, you set the interval that you want it to go out on. As soon as you turn to this channel and you have it set that way, it's going to start sending an auto APRS at the interval that you set. Now, when I'm testing, a lot of times I'll make it 30 seconds. I think the 578 only has 60 seconds, but I shorten the interval just so that I can make sure I'm getting good packets and I can watch them come in on APRS FI. All right. There's support for roaming if you need it. If you have roaming set up, you can choose this and turn this on, and APRS will send even if you're doing roaming channels. I'll leave it off for now. I don't do roaming very often. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about very quickly here is the fixed location beacon. It's off right now, meaning that it will not send a fixed location beacon. It's going to send the auto transmit, but it's only going to send it again if the GPS is on and you have a GPS lock. Now, sometimes that can be awkward if you're doing testing. So I will turn this on, and when you turn fixed beacon on, you won't have an auto interval. It's just going to send the fixed beacon at the same interval, but it will not have the GPS coordinates. It's going to have the coordinates that you load down here in the latitude and longitude. So once that's on, this becomes active. You can go in and make changes to it. You would put your latitude and longitude for whatever the location is that you want to send. And this is going to send a fixed location no matter whether you move around or not. I like to do this, like I said, when I'm testing. I can bypass having to have the GPS lock, and I can test to make sure that the code plug is sending packets properly and they're being received by APRS FI. Now, a couple of things with this: when you put in your latitude, make sure it's a northern for the US. And when you put in your longitude, make sure it's eastern for the US. Now, a lot of times you'll see this written as -113 or minus longitude, and that actually equals east. If you set this to west, your beacon will be somewhere out in the China Sea, which I've done already a number of times as I've been playing with this. Okay, so once you turn beacon off, fixed beacon off, you can no longer make changes. So just so you know that. But you will be, once you get a GPS lock, you will be starting to send the actual GPS location as you move around. Okay, so that's generally, this is working for not only analog, but it also applies to digital, all these settings here. Now, down at the next block, it actually says analog. However, it kind of is, it is a little bit of both, actually. So the APRS transmit tone. This will allow the radio to send a loud tone of the packet, burring sounds going out as the packet if you have it turned on. A lot of times when I'm testing and I'm not going to be looking at the radio and I want to hear the packet go out so I can watch it come in on the APRS FI website, I'll leave this on and I'll know that I'm sending by listening to the tone. It gets real old fast, so in general use, I would say you would probably be turning this off, leaving it off. Now, to-call. To-call is a actual setting that is documented in a database, and it's an APRS database. Originally, it was developed and kept up by Bob Roinga, who's known as the father of APRS. Bob passed away this past year. I'm not exactly sure who's maintaining this, but I know that someone is based on the APRS.org organization. So what this is here, to-call, it's assigned APAT81. That is the AnyTone 878 to-call. This is what you want to put in there if you're running an 878. If you were running a 578, it would be APAT 51 for the 578. What to-call does is it buries itself in the packet information going out, and if you have, when you receive it, if you have the decoding and you know what to look for, this will tell you that it's coming from an AnyTone radio. Basically, it's because of different capabilities of radios. What you also need is a SSID. I always use one. I've seen a lot of times the default from AnyTone will be 0. That will work. I personally like to use 1, so that's the way I set it. It's a personal thing. So that's what to-call is. There's only 2 things that should be going in here: APAT 81 for the 878 or APAT 51 for the 578. Now, on your call sign, that's an obvious thing. You'd put your call sign in here, and then also choosing a dash number SSID. Now, what I like to do, because I have multiple radios, I will assign the radio a number, and I will use that number as my dash. And what that allows me to do when you're in APRS FI and you're searching for your call sign and your packets, you can put your call sign with the dash number in there, and that's going to bring up what you've got set here. You put the -1 in, it's going to bring up the -1. Now, if you're sending it -1 and you put in -2, you're not going to see any packets. It's not going to recognize it. So that's how this works. APRS symbol table. That is a chart table that will show you basically icons that will show up on the APRS FI map system. And for every icon, there will be a character. And the character is what you put in the next line down here. So the symbol table I use is a /. That's the standard symbol table. There is a \. There may be a third one. I don't follow that closely. But personally, I use the standard table. It seems to work and be a lot more reliable than some of the other exotic icons. In my case, I don't choose a physical icon. I choose one, so that when my packet comes in, it will show 1 on the map, and I know that's my #1 radio location. If you choose a different icon, ampersand or one of the others, it could show that you've got a certain weather station, or it could be a home, picture of a house, things like that. And so it's very, very polished. I can't really go into it in detail right now, but if you Google APRS icons, you will get a lot of information, and it's very easy to understand. Charts are usually in color, and they look pretty cool. All right, next thing you need to set is the digipeater path. Now, receiving APRS signals in the United States, there are 2 types of receivers. One is an iGate, which does nothing but receive, and it will not pass or bounce your signals anywhere else. It will receive it, and if it does receive it and it's connected to the internet, it will post your packet on APRS FI the way you're supposed to, and your location will show up. If you're sending and your signal reaches a digipeater, the digipeater will also send the signal and the packet to APRS FI, but it will also bounce the path so that you have an extra location, and maybe another beacon will grab it and also post it. Now, I don't really worry too much about this. I have not had any trouble with digipeaters or iGates as long as I know where they are and I know that I'm within their location. I don't have a problem. So what the settings here are wide settings, and you can Google those as well. What's recommended is most common is 2 signals, wide 1-1 with a comma, and then wide 2-1 afterwards. You can have more than 2. You could have 3 or 4 wides. Just make sure they're all separated by a comma. That's very, very important. You miss out that comma and your packet's not going to be going out right. Okay, entering your sending text. In this tutorial, I put APRS tutorial, my call sign 878 and analog, and that information will be sent in the packet. It will be decoded, and if you go into APRS FI and go from the map icon to the actual packet listing, you'll be able to see that information in the packet. As far as the transmit bandwidth, I use narrow. It's a personal choice. Wide works. Narrow, I feel narrow is adequate, and so that's what I normally set. Now we have some delay stuff in here and a couple of other issues that we should go through. Transmit delay in milliseconds. AnyTone recommends this at this point that you would set that at 1200 milliseconds. I've used anything from 600 milliseconds on up, and I've never had a problem. But as we develop the system, AnyTone is recommending a higher delay at 1200, which is why I'm setting it this way. Now I'm going to skip down here to the pre-wave time, also in milliseconds. Again, AnyTone's recommendation is 1200, and that's the setting that I would use. Now, moving back up on what I didn't cover to skip over, this is a send subtone, and it's off. What this does is if you have a local repeater that you're set up to accept APRS, all right, in say an event, or a race or an event or a bike race, things where you're actually manning checkpoints and things like that, a lot of clubs will put up their own repeater, and they'll, in order to keep the packet signals coming in and not having the repeater annoyed with direct signals coming in without it, they'll set this tone to either CTC, which is PL tones, and select a PL tone, and that will go out with your APRS signal, which will turn on the repeater or the digipeater and allow it to accept the packet. Now, the second setting here is DCS. DCS is another tone system. It's a little bit older, but if you need any information on this, you could just Google DCS tones. Again, when you turn it on to DCS, you would be selecting the tone that matches the repeater. In this case here, we're going to go put it back to off. I definitely don't use tones for the international, or pardon me, the national APRS channel. There's no need to use tones. If you sent tones, it wouldn't matter. It's going to take the packet either way. Now, these are your analog frequencies. There's 8 of them. These can be picked in the channel right down here as APRS report frequency for analog right here. And you can pick frequencies 1 through 8. Why would they have so many frequencies available? Well, the same type of information that I was talking about with your tones. If your club uses a local repeater frequency and you're tracking APRS on your members that are holding an event, and they want to know where the different folks are, whether they're at their checklist or whether they're moving. Maybe there's a sweep team on some of the hiking issues that they go behind everyone at the last to make sure that no one's lost. And this would be a repeater that would be on a different frequency than the APRS national. It'd be a local, it's frequency that would be local. You're not sending it worldwide or America-wide or North America-wide. And so that's why they allow you to have that. And also, there are folks that travel different countries will have a different APRS frequency for their analog signals. And so you could put those in for Europe or Australia or any of the other countries. And then when you're in the U.S., you'd use the U.S. report frequency. And when you're in the other countries, you'd be using that frequency that you would put in here. Makes it very easy to match the frequency to your location. Very quickly, this pass all, it's a very interesting setting. It's really not a send setting at all. Basically, when this is off, okay, you'll be your packets, any packet that comes through is going to display on your receive packets listing. Now, this includes packets that will have errors in them and may be garbled. So if you actually turn this to on, on, pass all is now on, okay, you're going to find that you're going to get anything that comes in there will be sent through. Whereas in the offside, I was an error in the offside. It's only going to accept packets that have been checked with a CRC error check. So you're only going to get good packets. It'll reject bad packets. Now, this section on the receive, I'm really not going to go into setting receive that much. There are a couple of radio settings that you need to make, and I'll do a separate video on that. But essentially, this basically allows you to either have the receive filter on or off. You could turn it on, and you would be receiving only packets from the call sign designated and the SSID dash number designated. Here, you're checking the type of packets that you want to receive. You can receive your location or your position packets, MIC-E, which is a little advanced packet system, objects, you can do messages, weather reports, status reports. If you checked every one of these, you may get messages more than you want. If you're doing certain things, if you're doing location tracking only, you probably would only want to use position or MIC-E. And essentially that is the settings for the APRS send. If the settings are correct and you follow this logic and this tutorial, you will get a packet send, and it will be a good send. Now remember, in the GPS auto with fixed beacon off, you have to have the GPS on, and the GPS has to have a lock so that there's actually location information available to send the packet. And when this sends in the background, when you set this channel up, when you turn to this channel, if fixed beacon is off, whenever you do a push to talk, or if you get the GPS lock, it's going to send out the GPS location. So you'll be able to see yourself as a moving target. If you turn fixed beacon on, turn to this channel, it's going to send APRS in the background, and it's going to send the fixed location only. Like I said, I use that a lot of times for testing, so that I don't have to wait for a GPS lock or have issues with that. Lastly, on APRS receive, you would actually create a receive channel, and you would put the receive frequency in as 144.390, so that you'd be actually listening for packets. Transmit frequency doesn't matter. You'd probably use a PTT prohibit, so you don't transmit on that frequency. You're listening only, and so that would be a listening channel, and it's mandatory to be tuned to the listening channel on the frequency 144.390 to receive. Again, if you're looking at, it doesn't matter whether you set an analog channel or a digital channel. They're both going to be sending analog packets in the background if you have analog picked. If you choose digital, it'll be sending digital to the talk group 310.099 or 310.999. And the APRS PTT mode is no longer available. It's grayed out, but the digital push-to-talk mode is on. They don't give you a choice. It's not whether it's first or end of transmission. And also, you get to set your digital APRS report channel, which is 1 through 8 as well. And pretty much, essentially, to get you started on APRS, that's the information that you need. So we'll leave this up for a few minutes. I want to thank you so much for watching the video. I hope that this video is helpful to you. And I would ask that, again, hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to build my channel, and subscribe and thumbs up and notification sets really are helpful to me. So thank you very, very much for listening, and take care, 73.